Okay, fine, man.
Yes.
Can I start? Okay, fine. ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So now we have come to the second valli of the chapter 1, where Yamadharmaraja has already done enough of testing of the Shishya Nachiketa, and he is now confirmed that Nachiketa has got sufficient preparation of the mind. He has got sufficient sadhana chatushtaya sampatti so that Yamadharmaraja can teach him that particular thing which he asked in the third boon. And what was it that he asked for in the third boon? He asked for self knowledge. Nachiketa asked for self knowledge, and Yamadharmaraja, being a true teacher, wanted to see whether this Shishya who asked for this knowledge had really the Tivra Mumukshutvam, whether the Shishya had Mumukshutvam sufficient enough for the Guru to teach this kind of a very, very subtle knowledge. And we have already seen in Bhagavad Gita and we have already seen in Vivek Chudamani that this Atma Jnanam or this knowledge of the self is something which is so subtle and that which is explained by the Shruti in Vedanta, and this requires a great preparation of the mind. The gross mind, which we are used to using for the transactions of the world with the world outside, is not the mind which is capable of really understanding Atmajnanam. And this is here an 8 or 9 year old boy, Nachiketa, who's asking for this knowledge in the third boon. And what did Yamadharmaraja do? He thought this could be a very childish demand on the part of this child to ask for Atmajnanam, which is something which requires a lot of preparation of the mind. And Yamadharmaraja tried his best to dissuade Nachiketa from getting answers for his questions on Atmajnana. And he said, I will give you anything else. Please don't force me to give you this knowledge. You ask me for anything else, I will give you whatever you want. And we have already seen what are the things with which Yamadharmaraja actually tried to lure Nachiketa to change his request for the boon. The third boon he had already asked, that he wants to know what is it. Some people say that when a person dies, something remains. And some people say there is nothing which remains. I want to know about that which is all the time there, irrespective of the body mind sense complex. I want to know that Atma, what that Atma is. And naturally, Yamadharmaraja was not prepared to give this knowledge unless he was sure that the Shishya actually deserved this knowledge, and he tested him sufficiently, and this is what we saw in the first valley of the first chapter. In the second valley also, the actual teaching starts from the 18th verse of this chapter, but initially Yamadharmaraja is giving a stuti of a Yogya Shishya. Who's a mumukshu? Who are these people who are really interested in Atmajnana and they are praiseworthy? Because most of the people are not interested in Vedanta. They are not interested in this Atmajnana because it is something which is subtle and which is sometimes difficult to understand, and people are more comfortable, they find it more convenient to be involved with the material world outside, and therefore most of the people are not interested in self knowledge, and therefore a person who has rejected all kinds of bhogas offered by Yamadharmaraja. He has offered so many things which we have seen in detail, but everything Nachiketa says, no, I don't want anything. I don't want long life. I don't want money. I don't want emperorship of the whole world. I don't want even heavenly pleasures because I know that all these things are short lived. And even though I may be alive as long as you are the presiding deity of death, even then I'm going to have to go one day or the other because this body is something which is not going to be there forever. And therefore, he rejects, Nachiketa has rejected every offer that Yamadharmaraja has made, and he has sufficiently made sufficient efforts to actually make Nachiketa change his mind. But fortunately for us, and fortunately for the Guru like Yamadharmaraja, Nachiketa doesn't get lured by all these bhogas offered by Yamadharmaraja and stands firm with conviction that what he wants to know from the third boon is that self knowledge or Atmajnanam. And in the third verse we saw in the last session, what did he say? He said, Natvam Priyan Priyarupan Kaman Abhidhyayan Nachiketo Atyasrakshi. Hey Nachiketa, you thought over very well and gave very, very clear and sound reasons as to why you did not want any of those bhogas, any of those priyan kaman, all those kamas which I offered you. Kamas means the sense objects, the vishayas that I offered you. You did not want any of them. Ultimately, you thought over it carefully about the anityatvam of all these things, and then you said that you wanted nothing but this Atmajnana. Not only that, he says, Naita na yetam srinkam vittamayim avaptaha yasyam majjanti bahavo manushaha. If you remember, in the second boon, where Nachiketa asked for this Agni Vidya, Nachiketa Agni Vidya, and when Yamadharmaraja told him that, and at that time our Nachiketa neither had a book to note down what was being said, nor did he have anything to record anything, but everything was grasped in the memory. The Grahana Shakti of this boy was so strong that he was able to repeat everything as to how that particular fire ritual has to be done. And Yamadharmaraja was so happy that in addition to all the three boons that he had actually promised him, in the second boon itself, Yamadharmaraja offered a very, very expensive and a very, very, beautiful mala, srinka, which he was wearing, made of very unusual gems. And he says, Na yetam srinkam. Srinkam means this mala, this necklace which was offered, vittamayim avaptaha, that which is very, very expensive, and yasyam majjanti bahavo manushaha, any other person would have got lost and would have accepted this kind of a very, very unusual gift. And for all those things which I offered, any other Manusha would have postponed his desire for moksha and would have probably gone for all these bhogas which I had offered. But what did you do, Nachiketa? Abhidhyayan, very, very clearly having understood that all these are temporary, and none of these bhogas are going to really give that satisfaction or that ultimate happiness which Atmajnana can give, which you have understood very, very clearly, and therefore I am very proud of you. So, in these first few verses, Yamadharmaraja is actually praising those mumukshus in the form of Nachiketa. Nachiketa is there in front of him as a Tivra mumukshu, but we have to understand that this praise of Yamadharmaraja also applies to some of us who are Tivra mumukshus and really not much concerned about what the world of objects can give us. So, this is actually the praise of the Shishya who is a Tivra mumukshu. Now, in the fourth verse, what does he say? He says that दूरमेते विपरीते विशुचि अविद्याया च विद्येति ज्ञाता विद्याभीप्सिनं नचिकेतसं मन्ये नत्वा कामा बहवो लोलुपन्त. So here, already in the first verse and second verse of the second valli of this chapter, first chapter, Bhagwan Yamadharmaraya, we call him Bhagwan because he's the Acharya here. He's the Devata, he's the Acharya of Atma Vidya here. And what did he say? That there are two pursuits that a human being can pursue. One is called as the Prayas. What is Prayas? Material benefits. Going after the material benefits, accruing the material benefits in the form of Artha Kama Purusharthas. So, a person who is after Artha Kama Purusharthas and who is only interested in accumulating name, fame, wealth, Vishayas, objective material objects of the world. In other words, a person who is fulfilling his Vittaishana, Putraishana, and Lokaishanas. Three types of desires, which we have already seen earlier. There are three main types of desires. All human desires can be clubbed into these three. Vittaishana, the need for security and artha. Lokaishana, a good surrounding, a good loka where I can stay. Putraishana, the need to continue my progeny. So these are the main three ashanas or desires, and all the human desires come under these three groups of desires. And Preyo Marga is that Marga. Prayas means where that which gives a kind of a pleasure and happiness in accruing material benefits. So a person who's after material pursuit for happiness, for fulfilling his happiness and for fulfilling his satisfaction, he is after material benefits. Such a person is called as a prayorthi, or a person who's after prayers. So a material pursuit is called as prayers, and artha kama purusharthas are mostly material pursuits. Dharma can also come under material pursuits because a person may try to do karmas, various kinds of Veda Vihita karmas which are talked about in the Veda Purva, only to get a good loka later on after death. So Swarga Loka Kamaha. Like what did our this Nachiketa's father do? Vajashravasaha. He did what? A Vishwajit Yajna. For what purpose? Ushan Havai Kaman, Kamaya, Ushan Havai. That means what? He desired for Swarga. And for the desire of Swarga, he did this Vishwajit Yaga. So, similarly, many people may get involved in Vaidika karmas. They may do Vaidika karmas for the sake of accruing punya. And by these punyas, accrual of this punya, many punyas, by doing many of these kind of rituals, fire yajnas, ishta karma, purta karma, other things, they want to accrue punya, they want to accrue merit so that they can get a better world after death. So this also comes under prayas only. Then what is Shreyas? Shreyas is where Atmajnanam or spiritual enhancement and Atmajnanam and knowing who I am myself. This spiritual pursuit is called as Shreyas. So, a person who is a mumukshu, who wants to know the truth of himself, the truth of Ishvara, the truth of Jagat, is the one who is called as a Shreyorthi. So, here in the fourth verse, he wants to tell Nachiketa, look, these two paths, the path of Prayas and the path of Shreyas, are far divergent. Those two are absolutely divergent. If one path leads to the east, the other path leads to the west. Whatever it is, exactly opposite directions it leads to. So he says, Duramete viparete vishuchi. Vishuchi means margas or the paths. So the Shreyo Marga, which is a pursuit, a spiritual pursuit to understand the nature of the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara, a pursuit for moksha, a pursuit for freedom from this bondage. This is what is called as Shreyas. A person who wants this is called as a Shreyorthi. And the person who is happy dabbling in the material comforts of the world and getting material benefits out of the world is called as a Preyorthi. And he says the Shreyo Marga and the Preyo Marga are Viparite. Vishuchi means the Margas, the two paths. The spiritual path, the path of moksha, the path of attaining moksha, the path where I walk the path to free myself from this bondage, the Shreyo Marga, and the Preyo Marga, where I want to get only as much happiness as I can from the material world. This is called as the Preyo Marga. So the Shreyo Marga and Preyo Marga are exactly opposite to each other. Why they are opposite to each other? The Shreyo Marga, by making this mumukshu to attain the goal of moksha, actually leads to independence from the world of objects. It leads to independence from the dependence on the world of objects. Whereas the Preyo Marga makes you to go from dependence to dependence. Today, I may be needing this particular thing to make me happy. Tomorrow, that does not give me happiness. I want something else to make me happy. And whenever I am in a material pursuit, there is dukkha all the way. There is dukkha all the way. In attaining what I want, it takes time, it takes a lot of energy. There is a lot of dukkha in attaining whatever I want. To actually keep it going or to protect it also is a dukkha. And I am always having a fear that I may lose whatever I have acquired or I may not get whatever I want. So, this material pursuit is associated with dukkha all the way, whereas the moksha pursuit, the goal of moksha, is something which leads me to independence from the dependence on the material objects. My happiness, my satisfaction no more depends on the situation of the world outside. It no more depends upon the people of the world outside. It no more depends upon the objects of the world outside. In moksha as my goal, I am totally free from the influence of the world and its objects. And therefore, what happens here? This Shreyo Marga or this moksha actually frees me from all kinds of dependence. Whereas the Preyo Marga keeps me dependent and it makes me go from one dependence to the other, one dependence to the other. It is something like, people who want to stop smoking, they'll start chewing the nicotine gum. So, what have we done here? We have only changed one form of addiction to another form. Nothing else has happened. I want to stop some other addiction. I take medicines to stop that addiction. So, what have I done? From one type of addiction, I have changed over to another type. This is what happens: dependence on one worldly object to the other, change from one dependence to the other. Therefore, here these two paths are absolutely different and they are divergent. Now, some people may say, So what? I can have a little of this, I can have a little of that. I can have Preyo Marga also, I can have Shreyo Marga also. It is not possible because they don't meet anywhere. If there is any common point where the Shreyo Marga and the Preyo Marga meet, then we can say, I'll have a little of moksha, I'll have a little of the worldly pleasure. It is not possible. If I'm a seeker of moksha, then the seeking of the worldly pleasures have to take a back seat. They have to take a secondary importance. I have to give main primary importance to the attaining of the goal of moksha. And if my primary importance is attaining material benefits, then automatically my pursuit for moksha takes a back seat. And then he says, avidya yacha vidyeti jnata. Therefore, the Preyo Marga or the material pursuit, the way of material pursuit of life is called as avidya. Why avidya? It is the ignorance of the self because of which I want to go after the things of the world to give me happiness. Therefore, Preyo Marga is a result of ignorance. What ignorance? Self ignorance. So it is avidya which makes me run after the Preyo Marga and Vidyeti Jnata. And this path of moksha or Shreyo Marga, this is called as Vidya. Vidya means what? It is knowledge, the path of knowledge. The path of achievement, material achievement, is something which is called as avidya. It is because of incompleteness that I am all the time feeling. Whereas this Shreyo Marga is called as Vidya. So Preyo Marga is avidya, ignorance. Shreyo Marga is the path of knowledge which frees me from this bondage. Then Vidya Bhipsinam Nachiketasam Manye. And I see you, O Nachiketa, you are not after the material pursuit, but you are after the Vidya Abhipsinam. Vidya Abhipsinam means you are the one who has already started walking on the Shreyo Marga and you have stuck on to it in spite of my, trying to, show you a lot of, make you greedy by luring you with all kinds of things, you have not wavered and you want to walk on this Shreyo Marga and Nachiketasam Vidya Bhipsinam. Vidya Marga you have chosen. Natva Kama Bahavo Alolupanta. So all these Bahavo Kamas, all these many kamas which I tried to lure you with, they did not really affect you or influence you. Now, in the next verse, in the sixth madra, Yamadharmaraja wants to give a picture of those who are lost in the Preyo Marga. He says that there are people who not only feel that the Preyo Marga is the best because it is temporarily giving them some kind of a happiness, but most of the time it is dukkha, they don't realize it. At the same time, they even lead other people. They like to misguide other people also in following the Preyo Marga. So, what is the lot of such people? Who are these ignorant people? Who are Preyorthis? And what kind of people are they? This description is going to be given in the next verse. That's the verse number 5. Let's read that. अविद्यायामन्तरे वर्तमानाः स्वयं धीराः पण्डितं मन्यमानाः दन्द्रम्यमाणाः परियन्ति मूढाः अन्धेनैव नीयमाना यथान्धा. So what does it say here? He talks about those people who vouch for Preyo Marga, who say that there is no other marga, there is no other way other than Preyo Marga. And because the Veda Purva or the Karma Kanda of the Vedas talks about many of the karmas and upasanas for material pursuits, many people think that the ultimate purpose of Veda is only material benefits. It is not true. The ultimate purpose of even Veda Purva is that one day or the other, this person who's doing all the Veda Purva Vihita karmas for the sake of material benefits will understand one day or the other that this is not really worth it, and try to find that marga or that thing which will give him permanent, everlasting happiness or anantatvam or purnatvam. So, though the Veda Purva temporarily deals with the Ajnanis and helps them to acquire the material benefits they want. Ultimately, the purpose of Veda Purva also is that everybody transcends, goes beyond the Veda Purva, beyond puja, beyond karma, beyond upasana, and goes for Vedanta. That is the ultimate purpose of our Vedas. But these people are indiscriminate people who the Prayas. The Prayas are indiscriminate people and they continue in their delusion. So, what does he say? Avidyayam antare vartamanaha. Those Prayas who are steeped in severe delusion that the material happiness is everlasting, that the world can give all that freedom and freedom from bondage and happiness that they want. This is the delusion under which the Prayas or the Praya Marga people are trying to attain happiness from life. And avidyayam antare vartamanaha. They continue to be in their delusion. They're steeped in delusion. Not only that, swayam dhiraha panditam manyamanaha. They think that they are panditas, they are most informed people, and they feel prayers is the only way to live life happily. Who has seen moksha? Who has understood what Atma is? Where is this Atma? Have you ever seen what this Atma is? That this is their argument. Charvakas. There are materialists called as Charvakas. They say body is the Atma. There is nothing beyond body. They don't even believe in Sukshma Sharira. Karana Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, nothing. Body is the Atma. So as long as this body is there, let us be happy, let us attain the material benefits and be happy. That is the way the materialists think. They are in deep delusion, the Upanishad says. And not only that, Swayam Dhiraha Panditam Manyamanaha. They think they are really Panditas or they are the experts in this, and they try to mislead people. Dandramyamanaha Pariyanti Mudaha. They are wandering, tormented from life to life. They do so many karmas, so much of karma phala is accumulated. Then they keep on wandering into different worlds, wandering into different kinds of, after every life, they come back again and they travel different worlds, coming back again and again to the human world, sometimes to the higher lokas, sometimes to the lower lokas, depending upon whatever punya or papa they have accrued, tormented by continuous cycles of birth and death, they are wandering. Dandramyamana means wandering. And then Pariyanti Mudaha. Pariyanti Mudaha, wandering, tormented in their delusions. And not only that, Andhenaiva Niyamana Yathanda. They are people of blind intellect, blind reasoning. Not only that, they lead other people also, like the blind leading the blind, and they are carried from one dependence to the other, from one loka to the other, from one life to the other, from one dependence to the other. Not only that, there are other people who are blind in their thinking, blind in their reasoning, blind in their intellect. At the same time, they are willing to follow these blind people, and therefore these people are leading the other people. They are themselves mind. Andheya niyamana yatha andhaha. Two blind people supporting each other and leading each other. One blind man supporting another blind man. So this is the state of those people who are steeped in Preyo Marga. And not only that, what is it that they are doing? Whatever they are doing in the Prayas Marga, Preyo Marga, also is not something which they are doing correctly. They may not be doing that correctly. So, because of their moodhatva, because of their moodhatvat, what happens to them? What is the other thing? What is the corollary of thing? In the sixth verse, he says, न साम्परायः प्रतिभाति बालं प्रमाद्यन्तं वित्तमोहेन मूढम् अयं लोको नास्ति पर इति मानी पुनः पुनर्वशम् आपद्यते मे. So he says, these prayerthis, they are so blinded by their own involvement in the world with a blind reasoning and a blind intellect. So, na samparayaha pratibhati balaha. They are not even aware of the Vedika sadhanas that can be done for dharma and moksha purusharthas. They are not even aware that there is another Purushartha other than Kama and Artha Purusharthas. There is another Purushartha, Moksha Purushartha, Dharma and Moksha Purushartha, which can help me in getting out of this bondage forever. These people do not even understand that. Na samparayaha pratibhati balam. They are balas, they are mudhas, they are childish people. Balaha means not childlike. They are childish people. They are not innocent like children, but they are blinded in their intellect and reasoning. So they are childish people who are blinded. Na samparayaha pratibhati. They do not know any Vaidika sadhanas either for dharma purushartha or moksha purushartha. Even if somebody else is trying to tell them, they are not going to listen to them because dharma and moksha are not paurusheya vishayas. Dharma and moksha are apaurusheya vishayas. These are something which we have to depend upon the Vedas to guide us. We have to depend on the Vedika sadhanas to guide us towards the dharma and moksha purusharthas. Therefore, what they do is na samparayaha pratibhati balam pramadyantam vittamohena mudam. They have no value for the human life that they have got. They are negligent. Pramadyantam. Pramadyam means what? Pramada. Pramada means neglect. Absolute neglect of human life. This is a life, this human life has been given to us for the ultimate Purushartha of Moksha Purushartha. But what do these people do? They are so blinded, they have no value for this rare human birth that they have got. And Vitta Mohena Mudham, they are completely blinded by the delusion for Artha Kama. Dharma and moksha as purusharthas never ever are, in their list. And they are so blinded, they don't even want to ask somebody, they don't even want to follow those people who can guide them about dharma and moksha purusharthas. So, na samparayaha pratibhati balam, these are like childish people lost in their own delusion and they do not know any Vaidika sadhanas, and at the same time they do not even bother to listen or take the help of people who know the Samparayaha or Vaidika sadhanas necessary for dharma and moksha purusharthas. And what do they say? Ayam lokaha nasti para iti mani. This is the only life that is there. There is nothing other than this life. There is no afterlife. There's no question of traveling anywhere. This is the only life. Ayam lokaha nasti para iti mani. There is nothing other than this life and this body. And therefore, punaha punaha vasham apadyate me. They again and again come into my jaws. My means what? When Yamadharmaraja says, they again and again come into my grip. They again and again come into my jaws. Means what? They are born again and again, they die again and again, they come into this vicious cycle of birth and death again and again. So then, in the next verse, now he says, then, if this is the reason, if this is the priority, then why is it that Shreyo Marga is not popular? Why is it that people are not going towards Shreyo Marga? What is this reason for that? When the Upanishads, when the Vedas are talking, when the Gurus are telling that whatever you are pursuing in Artha Kama is only temporary, it is only going to keep you more and more involved with the world. It is only going to make you shift from one dependence to the other. It's only going to make you come back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. And there is one way out of this, and the way out of this is to be a mumukshu and try for Shreyo Marga, to be free once and for all from the effects or from the influence of coming back again and again, from the influence of death. If I want to get free, if I have to get free from my bondage, the only way is moksha purushartha. But then why is it, in spite of all this, why is it that the Shreyorthis are so few compared to the Prayorthis? Why is it so? He's giving the reason for that in the seventh verse. Krishna, what did he say in Bhagavad Gita? Manushyanam sahasreshu kashchid yatati siddhaye. He said, among thousands of people, there are a handful of them who want to come to moksha marga. Among those handful also, it's a small, minuscule of those people who continue on Shreyo Marga. That is it. Number two. And thirdly, those who know me tattvataha, those who really succeed in the moksha marga, in the goal of moksha, in knowing me, in knowing the swarupam of the jiva, jagat and Ishvara, ultimately is a rare one, is a very rare one. What is the reason? What is the reason why there are no takers for Vedanta? Wherever you go, if there is a Vedanta lecture going on, there are hardly any people there. But let there be some other thing like some meditation session or some Kundalini session or some yoga session. There'll be so many people who are there. Or if there is some session where wealth can be increased, where your health can be improved, what can you do? There'll be thousands of people. But in a Vedanta lecture, to listen to Vedanta, where which is the ultimate emancipation of me, which is the ultimate thing which a human being should really aspire for. In for such a thing, for such a goal, there are no takers. Why is it so? That is what here Yamadharma Raja is explaining here in the seventh verse. What does he say? Shravanayapi bahubhiryo na labhyah शृण्वन्तोऽपि बहवो यं न विद्युः आश्चर्यो वक्ता कुशलोऽस्य लब्धा आश्चर्यो ज्ञाता कुशलानुशिष्टः. He says that first thing is that it is a very subtle topic, and this vidya, Atma Vidya, is something very subtle. Secondly, we are not exposed to that right from our childhoods. We are exposed to material pursuits. We are used to material pursuits. And we see the results of material pursuits easily. The material pursuits are there for us to see in front of us. But what about this moksha? One thing is, it is sukshmat sukshmataram. It is not something where I can say, I can see this Atma, I can see this Brahman, and understanding myself to be the Atma or Brahman is going to be of this knowledge, is going to be a liberating, transforming knowledge. I do not know. And to know that itself, it takes me a long time. And this topic of Atmajnanam is such a subtle topic that even after listening, Shravanayapi bahubhihi yona labhyah, after listening also, this is not understood by many people. Why? because I have not trained my mind towards that direction. I'm not prepared for it. If a primary school child is made to go and sit in the high school or college, will that child understand what is being taught? No. Why? Because there is no preparation of the mind. We are not prepared for this knowledge. Secondly, we feel just listening to Vedanta for a few months or for a few years, I am going to get liberated. That is not so. It is not so. It requires a lifetime's commitment, not only life, one life, many, many lives and lifetime of commitment, because this is a very sukshma subject. This is a subject about which we have never thought. All the time we are looking outwards towards the world, and to think about our own selves, it is something very, very rare for us. Therefore, even after listening to it for years together, there are people who have not understood it. I have heard many Vedanta gurus saying, I have taught this for 35 years, 40 years. I don't know how many people have really understood it. The same people are coming back again and again. Doesn't matter, at least they are coming back. Unfortunately, many people stop. Many people stop listening. Oh, we don't understand. I always get this question, and many people come and tell me, you speak very well. You tell us so things very clearly, but we don't understand. We forget. When you tell us, we understand, but afterwards we forget and we don't understand. It's very difficult to understand. This attitude all the time, if I say Atmajnana is difficult, 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 it is never going to be easy. I have to be at it. I have to listen to it again and again and again. Pauna Punyena Shravanam has to be done. Mananam has to be done. It is a lifetime's commitment. How many of us are willing to commit ourselves for Vedanta? That commitment is not there. Therefore, Shravanaya api bahubihi yona labhyaha. Just for namesake, Shravanam is not enough. Every week, once a week, I listen to Vedanta for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, I may listen, but it will make no difference. I have to be with it. I have to be at it. Therefore, he says, Shravanaya pi bahubhihi yona labhyaha. This Atmajnanam, this knowledge is not available for people in spite of listening, because there is no committed listening. There is no committed Shravanam. There is no committed Shravanam for a length of time. One has to give one's time. One has to give one's complete attention to that. That is why he says that this Vidya, the stuti of Vidya is going on here. The stuti of Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya is going on here. Where Yamadharma Raja is telling that people have no commitment, no patience to listen to the Guru and Shastra for sufficiently long period of time and then try to understand it. Immediately we say, I don't understand it. We block it. Even if there is a possibility of my understanding, Ayo, Vedanta, I don't understand anything. I don't understand anything. I don't remember anything. The more I go on saying that, the more it is going to be difficult for me to understand. I have to go with a positive, open mind. This is something about myself. This knowledge is something about my own self, my own nature, my own confusions about myself, my own ajnanam about myself. Vedanta is talking about me. And if I'm not interested in learning about myself, what more am I interested in? So he says, Shruna Shravanaya Bapi Bahurbhi Yona Labhya. I'm not interested. People are not interested in knowing about themselves. Shrunvantaha api bahavo yamna vidyuhu. Even after listening for a long time, this Vidya is such a subtle Vidya that unless the person is absolutely well prepared for it, a person will not be able to get the meaning of it. Ascharyo Vakta Kushalo Asya Labdha. That a guru is trying to teach this, which is something which is not, which is such a subtle subject. Atma or nature of myself. I not being the Anatma, I am the Atma. I am that Atma Swarupa iti. Whatever Bhagwan Krishna talked from the 12th to the 25th verse of second chapter, and in many, all the chapters in many verses, what he says is here, a guru who uses the Shastra and tries to explain this difficult and subtle Vidya is a wonder. If a guru can teach the incommunicable, if a guru can make a person understand that subtle thing called as Atma, it is Ascharya. So, a Vakta is Ascharya. Vakta means the teacher of Brahmagyana is Ascharya. Kushalo Asya Labdha. The person who has understood it is a greater wonder. That is why Krishna said, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, Kaschit. A handful of people are interested in this, and especially those who have Tattvataha, who have understood what it is. They are Kushalas. They are the people who are really great because they have got it. Ascharyo Jnata Kushala Anushishtaha. The one who is giving this knowledge is also a Kushalaha, a person who knows how to use the Shastra, give this knowledge. And Ascharyo Jnata, the one who wants this knowledge, the one who has understood this knowledge also is a Ascharya. And what kind of a teacher is necessary for this jnanam to be given? That is what is going to be told in the 8th verse. So, what does Yamadharmaraja say? न नरेणावरेण प्रोक्त एषः सुविज्ञेयो बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिरत्र नास्ति अणीयान् ह्यतर्क्यम् अणुप्रमाणात्. So, what is this Atmajnana? It is talking about myself. It is talking about me, the Atma. It is talking about me, that Brahman, which is subtle. Last line you see, Aniyan, which is absolutely the subtlest of the knowledge. Atarkyam, that which cannot be logically explained because it is not an object of perception. It is not a matter principle. It is not an object of my perception which I can show logically and teach. Therefore, it is atarkyam. It is something which cannot be logically explained. It is a very subtle knowledge, and anupramanam. That anupramanam again means it's a very subtle knowledge. Very, what you call as it's something which is not very easily understood. So it is a very subtle knowledge, and it is something which is beyond logic. I have to go beyond logic. My usual logic, which I use in the world outside, will not help me to understand Atmajnanam. I have to have the skills of understanding the Atmajnanam, which are given as pramana in the Shruti, in the Upanishads, in the Vedanta. And who is this person who can make me understand? He is the Guru. Who has understood? What kind of a Guru is he? Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru. A person who has got this knowledge, Sampradayataya. A person who has learnt this, how to give this knowledge, Sampradayataya. From his Guru, he has learnt it. His Guru has learned from his Guru. Like this, a particular chain of Guru Shishya Parampara has come where the teaching methodologies, the teaching modules, how to teach Atmajnanam is taught to the student. So, a Guru who has learnt Sampradaya with Guru, a Guru who has learnt under his Gurus in a Sampradaya which teaches how to use the Shastra and how to teach, such a person is the right Guru, and this Guru is called as Ananya Guru, a person who has clearly understood Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, who does not see himself separate from that Atma. Such is a person who is called as Ananya Guru, Ananya Prokte. So this Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, when he speaks, third line, Ananya Prokte, when he speaks, there is no other go helplessly, you will understand. One reason why probably people don't understand is that maybe the Guru is not utilizing, the Guru is not probably a Sampradaya Guru. That could be one of the reasons. If it is a Shrotriya Guru who has come through a Sampradaya and teaches this knowledge the way it has to be taught, taking the pramana of the Shruti, there is no way helplessly you will understand. That's what he says. Ananya prokte gatiratra nasti. Third line, I'm going backward. Fourth line, I said, this knowledge is about Atma, which is a very subtle knowledge, which is beyond logical explanation. There is a different way of teaching this knowledge, and this knowledge can be taught by a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, which was said Ananya Prokte, taught by a Brahmanishta Guru, Gatiratra Nasti. There is no way you can miss this teaching. When I take these lessons from a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru over a period of time, helplessly I will understand. That's why I keep telling those people who ask me, we don't understand. Say, don't say that. Listen, listen, keep on listening. A time will come when it will click, it will make a difference. It only requires your time, it requires your commitment, nothing more than that. There is no way you cannot understand it because Vedanta is talking about yourself, about myself. It is not talking about something, it's not a rocket science. I need to tune my mind, I need to prepare my mind towards what is being talked about myself. So, Ananya Prokte Gatirakta Nasti Suvigneyo Bahuda Chintyamanaha. Okay, because it is not clearly understood, because it is thought of in many ways, because it is something which is not logically approachable, because this Atmajnana is a very subtle Jnanam, therefore it is taken or it is misunderstood by gurus also in many ways. Therefore, a Dvaiti Guru may teach the same Upanishad in a totally different way. A Vishishtadvaiti Guru may teach it in a different way. A Sankhya philosopher may teach it in a different way. Therefore, there are many, many ideas about this, and therefore it is difficult to understand it. To get the right Guru, an Advaita Guru, who sees the purport of the Shruti and teaches this, is a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, and such a Guru only can make the difference. Whereas the first line you see, Na Narena Avarena Proktayesha. Whereas any other Guru who has not come into the Sampradaya, through the Sampradaya, who's not a Brahmanishta Guru, at least a Shrotriya Guru, is called as a Avara Guru, Avarena, Na Narena Avarena Prokta. A Guru who's an Avara, that means a person who is not trained to teach this Atmajnanam, the one who has not come Paramparateya. If such a Guru tries to give this knowledge, then it is na suvigneyaha. That means it is not clearly understood. Again, because there are a lot of confusions about this knowledge. The very nature of Atmajnanam being very subtle. One has to have the patience to listen to a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru for a consistent period of time again and again and go through the process of Mananam and Nididhyasanam. This is the only way one can understand it. Therefore, what kind of a guru is needed for this knowledge was talked about in this verse. In the previous verse, what was talked about? What is this Brahma Jnanam? The stuti of Brahma Vidya was talked about. In the 8th verse, what is talked about? What kind of a guru is actually necessary to give this knowledge. And in the next verse, in the 9th verse, here we'll just introduce this verse and see how much we can do it in the next 5 minutes. So he says, Naisha tarkena matirapaneya प्रोक्तान्येनैव सुज्ञानाय प्रेष्ठ यां त्वम् आपः सत्यधृतिर्बतासि त्वाग्दृगो नो भूयान्नचिकेतः पृष्टा. So he says he addresses Nachiketa as He Priya Preshta. Second line, last word, He Preshta. Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya. By tarka, by logic, by scientific rational thinking, it is not possible to establish Atmajnana. So, Naisha Tarkena Matihi Apaneya. I cannot, this buddhi, which is used to rational thinking, which is used to kind of a logical thinking, may not work in this. There is a different way of thinking which is necessary for Atmajnanam. So, Tarkena, by logic, by Tarka, Nyaya, any of these systems, it may not be possible to Matirapaneya. It may not be possible to get this particular self knowledge is something which cannot be got by mere logic or by Tarka or by any other means. It is only got through Guru Shastra. Guru Shastra Upadeshena eva. Prokta Prokta Anyenaiva Sujnanaya Preshtaha. So, He Preshtaha, He Preshta means, Hey dear one, it is to be understood only when you surrender to the Shastra, and the Shastra through the Guru has to be taught in a particular way that is beyond logic and beyond our regular rational way of thinking. It requires a different way of understanding, which is really not difficult. It is just the way I have to look at this thing is something different. So, Yam Tvam Apaha Satya Dhritir Batasi. And now you already have desired with the dhriti, with the commitment that you want to know this. It's all as though you have already attained this knowledge because you have started this first step. You have started this very knowing this knowledge. You have asked me for this knowledge. You have rejected everything else and you are committed to knowing this knowledge. So, Yam, this knowledge, you already have a guru now in me, and you have asked me this question as a guru, and the knowledge is already there present in me, and therefore Satya Dhrutir Batasi. So you are of firm resolve, Dhruti, and you have found a guru in me, and therefore it is as though you have started the journey of your Shreyo Marga. Tvag no bhuya nachiketah prashta. I wish I had more number of shishas like you. Tvadr, like you, I have bhuyat nachiketah prashta. I wish I had more number of, students, shishas like you. When there is a very bright shishya, naturally the guru also gets motivated to teach whatever he or she knows. Therefore, it is not something which is one sided, it is a dialogue between the Guru and the Shishyas. And if the Shishya is a very high quality Shishya and wants to know this knowledge and committed to it and willing to give time and a prepared one who has a prepared intellect, the Guru is also happy to teach this knowledge. So, hey Nachiketa, you are with the firm resolve and you have got me in the form of Guru, and it is almost as though it is well begun. We say well begun is half talk about the Shreyo Marga to you. And of course, we have to wait for another 4 or 5 verses, and then after this, Bhagwan Yamadharmaraja talks about the limitations of karma. He says Jnanam is the only thing. Knowledge, Atmajnanam, is the only way out. Whereas any amount of karma and upasana is not going to give moksha. That is what is going to be talked about in the next few verses. So we'll stop with this. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च